Good morning, Ben, Megan. How are you this Sunday?
I'm good.
Waking up,
Waking
getting
up.
everybody ready.
Everybody ready for the day?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
With your iced coffee.
With my iced coffee here. That's how I get the day started. Absolutely. Ben will try it one of these days. It doesn't make any sense to drink hot coffee when it's
Maggie Jean
90
wants
degrees
to speak
outside.
now.
Hey,
Look at
Maggie
it.
Jean. How you doing? Hey, Maggie Jean. Yep. Okay. We'll get you on another episode later in the day.
Yeah, she said, huh?
Yeah. So you guys have a little bundle. How old is Maggie Jean now?
15 months.
Year and a half.
15
Ish.
months, year and a half ish. Okay, cool. And you guys have been married now for 3 years?
2.5. I think December will be 3 years.
3 years in December. Yeah, because that was the last time I saw you guys at the wedding. So what is marriage like? Because this is the first time for you guys both being married, right?
Yes.
All right. What's it like?
It's different. And then you add a third one in there, and that just makes everything even more different. So it's been good.
It's different. That's all he's got.
I was by myself for a long time too. So
I think it's
Different.
hard. But I think it's also not beneficial, but rewarding. That's what I'm trying to say. It's hard, but it's rewarding.
There are some tax credits I hear involved.
yes.
What'd you say?
Tax credits.
Tax credits, so it probably is beneficial to be married.
Yeah, and have a baby, and that's even more tax credits.
Yeah. I mean, because I hear that having a baby really changes everything. You know, you're probably low on sleep. You got to do more planning. You got to prepare for every single outing. Has that been a tough adjustment being parents?
She's shaking her head, yes.
Okay.
She's been pretty good about sleeping.
Yeah.
Like, even whenever she was little.
So
she sleep pretty good.
Yeah, we had her sleeping, and not to brag because I know that's probably one of the hardest things about having a baby, but I found this girl on Instagram, and I took her sleeping course called Will I Ever Sleep Again? And so at 5 weeks, we had her sleeping 6 hours, and then every week after that, we added an hour. So she sleeps from about 6:37 till about 8 if we don't wake her up, which is a blessing because both of us love our sleep. But
nap time's the best time of the day.
Yeah. But the other stuff you mentioned is definitely, planning. You always have to have, the food planned, the diapers, the wipes, the change of clothes. And that's just if you're running to Target, it's the anticipation of
what could happen.
Yeah, anything.
And we don't ever get anywhere on time either.
Yeah, that too.
That's what I hear. Yeah, you gotta.
But I didn't do well with that before baby. So.
But now you have an excuse. Now it's the baby, guys. It's not me.
Yeah,
you can just blame it on Maggie.
Right. But it's challenging. It's you're growing a human, and you want to make them a good human, successful, a good person, and that starts from their first words, their first actions. So it's definitely a challenge.
Okay, now that's really interesting because I think that is the goal, to raise good humans. So what have you guys discussed about what a good human looks like?
Yeah.
Ben's a good human. Is that what you're saying? Ben is the model of a good human?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, far from it.
I think when we, talked about getting married and having kids, I think one thing I told Ben was a priority was, my Christianity, the Lord. And to me, everything stems from that. So being a good human means being a good Christian and putting Jesus first and making him the center of all things. And so to me, that's where it starts with Maggie Jean, is making her aware of that. And yeah, so that was, a conversation we had very early on.
Okay.
Sorry,
Okay.
dog's having a moment.
Oh, no worries. So if I'm not mistaken, the Bible says, spare the rod, spoil the child. So have you guys decided on giving Maggie the belt when she's turning up?
Hey, you're starting hard.
No more conversations. This is what we do.
I know. So Ben and I both grew up in homes where spanking was a form of punishment and discipline. And with being teachers, we definitely see that that's not as popular. I don't know another word, as it used to be. But I do think there's a time and a place, and I do think there's a biblical way. I don't know all the answers. Do I want to hit her for every single thing she does? Like she touches the dog when I tell her not to, or something like that. Like that to me is not worthy. But if it's something where like you could have really hurt someone or been hurt and you've been told not to do that, but you did it anyway, to me it's okay, probably a spanking, and then let's sit down and have a conversation about why that was wrong. I think that is the most important, is the conversation that follows, because I don't want to just hit her and then like, let's move on,
Mm-hmm.
But it is hard because, as a teacher, I always see kids and I'm like, you need your butt whooped. Like that's what you need. And then when you have a kid, it's like, oh, but I love her so much. Like, it's hard. But then you see like, hey, this needs to be memorable. Like you need to remember why you shouldn't do this. And sometimes it's, my mom spanked me the last time I did this, and I know that, so I shouldn't do it again. So I think it's a balance. It's hard.
Okay, so it sounds like the belt is on the table, though.
Yeah.
The belt is on the table. She's going to get it if she needs it.
Yeah, when I was growing up, my dad had a cedar chest at the end of the bed, and so all my teachers knew if we got in trouble, they would like say, do you need to go to the cedar chest? And so I think something like that is it's on the table,
Okay.
We ain't raising no hoodlum, no fool.
I heard that. Yeah, I got the belt too growing up too. And every time I got it, it was always justified. I knew I deserved it. Yeah, so that's interesting. So have you always been very faith-based?
Yeah, I have. I grew up in a pretty strict Christian home. I grew up Pentecostal. So I don't know if you know anything about Pentecostal, but it's pretty rigid. It's pretty rules-based a lot of times, and not so much grace-based. And so I really struggled with that through college. As I started reading and learning on my own, I got to a place where I was like, wait, that's not biblical. Why did I, like boys and girls can't swim in the pool together, or, like these people don't cut their hair because they say it's biblical. And then, so I had to learn that the Bible is the authority, and I had to, figure some things out on my own. But yeah, pretty much always been a firm believer, never questioned my faith, just kind of questioned the church and the environment I grew up in. But yeah.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Yeah, it was. Do you remember about what age you started to have questions about the Bible and how things were being interpreted at the Pentecostal church?
Yes. When I started college.
Okay.
I grew up in a small community. Everybody, was a Christian. It wasn't, I had never met anybody Catholic. It was very Protestant. And I got to college and all these people are drinking. And then they say they're a Christian. And I was very confused because, like I said, I grew up very rules based. And so in my head, it was no alcohol ever. And so I had to figure out, like, what do I believe and why do I believe it? Do I believe it because someone told me to believe it, or do I believe it because that's what the Bible says? So it took, college, seeing all these different people say they were faith-based, and in my mind, they weren't. And it was hard for me.
Okay. And when you started having these questions, how was that handled by your relationships and your parents in terms of how you were seeing new things?
I'm not gonna lie, I was mad. Whatnot.
Ben, do you remember that?
We were together. So like I said, I was very rules based in my mind. And today when my mom and I talk about it, or my dad, they're like, we never told you that it was 0 or 100. It was all or nothing. But in my head, it was like I said, no drinking. Well, I graduate high school, we go to the beach, and my parents have margaritas. And I was like, wait a second. I've been condemning everybody to hell my entire life for drinking, and now you're telling me it's okay. And they're like, well, you're 18, you should be able to handle it. And I remember calling Ben, like,
crying.
Yeah, I was like, who are they? I don't know. It was a
that is so fun. That is okay. So to get this straight, you didn't see your parents consume alcohol until you graduated high school.
Right.
And so basically, the summer you graduated, so basically they made sure that they didn't consume alcohol in front of you until you had graduated high school.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I don't know. I think for a long time they probably didn't drink. And maybe they did, like on vacation when they went on trips without us. But in my head, my parents didn't drink. And anybody who did was an alcoholic or going to hell or both. I feel so bad saying that. It's all our wedding. Like, we love a good time. I love it, so I've come a long way. I was very naive and just, I don't know, I've always had strong convictions, man.
Fair. So now I'm kind of curious now, along that same vein of like growing up and thinking that alcohol and drinking is really bad, and if you're drinking, you're going to hell. Did you have a moment where you had to reconcile Jesus turning water into wine?
Do you want to know the answer?
I do. I gotta know.
In my church, it wasn't fermented.
Oh. That's okay. So that was like a loophole that the church built in.
Yeah.
So Jesus turned water into non-alcoholic wine.
To grape juice.
To grape juice, Jesus.
Yeah. Even with communion, it was grape juice.
Okay. No, I get it. Okay. And so you never even had to explore that thought because it was grape juice at the church.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
It's crazy.
Ben, are you a church attendant too, Ben?
Well, I remember going some, and then whenever we first moved to Indiana, we went pretty regular, and then we just started getting busy. We had stuff to do around the house, and we just didn't really go. My mom is Catholic.
Or was. She's ex.
Her and my mom have more conversations than I do, especially about stuff like this. But she was Catholic. My dad was Southern Baptist. My granddad was a deacon at the church and all that stuff. So my dad grew up in the church, but we just never really did.
Gotcha. So am I correct in assuming that, Megan, you participate on Sundays and then Ben stays home?
Well, since the pandemic, I have not been going in person. I watch it online. I'm about to start going back. Hopefully this Delta thing doesn't cause problems with that. But Ben goes with me sometimes, but his situation is complicated during football season because they meet at like 12 and he has to watch film and grade it before they meet. So when we first got married, we talked about, I was like, I want you to go to church with me. You know, I want Maggie Jean to see both of us there and participating. And Ben was okay with that. But like I said, with football, that provides some complications and something we haven't figured out. But don't get me wrong. I don't think church is what makes you a Christian or not. So, yeah, the Bible does say, do not neglect to assemble together with believers. But I think Ben and I are both in agreement that the Bible does not say you're not a Christian if you don't go to church on Sundays. You know, that's not the way to heaven. So. Got
it. So, what does make, in your book, someone a Christian? Yeah.
I think it's simple. The ABCs of becoming a believer. It's admitting that we're all sinners and we've been separated from God through sin. Believing in your heart that Jesus died on the cross and rose 3 days later, and confess that he's the King of Kings. So I think a lot of times we make it a lot more complicated sometimes. And when I say we, I mean Christians or even the world. We add perfection, we add good, we add work-based stipulations. But the Bible is very clear that it doesn't take much to be a follower.
Got it. And along that same vein, like, I had an aunt and her husband passed away a while ago, but they were both religious people. But I found it interesting because on Sundays they would go to separate churches. They never went to church together. And it worked, and they were fine. I don't know the details of their relationship or that dynamic with religion, but it seemed to work for them. So I guess I'm curious, like, you know, having a child, let's say Maggie Jean gets to be, you know, a teenager, and she decides that she wants to go to a different church than mom and dad. Is that a conversation that you guys have talked about?
I think if you're meaning a different church, but the same beliefs, like, that's fine. I want her to go where she feels comfortable. I want her to go where she feels like she's being spiritually fed. And until she's old enough to make those decisions, that's our job, is to make sure she is somewhere where she's growing, where she's learning, and where she's learning to listen, you know, to what the Bible says and what the Lord says. But if she wants to go to a church where she feels more comfortable, it may be a thing where we pray about it and we decide we all are going to go, because that's where our job is, to make sure she's being fed spiritually. So yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Gotcha. So you mentioned something, I think we talked about this yesterday, apologetics.
Yeah.
Because I'm still unclear exactly on what apologetics is. I've heard it used a couple of times in the church, and I'm like, okay, but what is it exactly?
Okay, so apology, or I don't know how to say it the correct way, but it's not talking about being sorry. It is Latin for to defend the faith.
Okay.
And that's something else. As I've gotten older, I realized that I don't know how to defend what I believe. I don't know why I believe what I believe, or like, how do I know this is the true truth? We live in a world where it's your truth, it's my truth. But as a Christian, I believe there's only one true truth, and that is the Bible, and that is the Lord. And so I started studying. I started listening to a lot of podcasts, and just doing research on that, defending your faith and knowing why you believe what you believe and how to back it up with. A lot of times we're under the impression that it's just stories, or just you're taking it faith-based, but it truly is fact-based as well. And so I've studied. I don't want to say I'm good at it, or I've become, I'm nobody in the world of apologetics, but I definitely love learning that. I've told Ben many times, if I was to take another path other than teaching, it would be theology. I don't know if that's teaching theology or what, but I just love learning about it.
Yeah, it is fascinating stuff. And I think a large majority of Christians go through a phase where they have to ask themselves why they believe what they believe.
Yeah.
So for you, why do you believe what you believe? Why do you believe that?
I believe what I believe because it's the truth. There's no more truer truth. Did she hang up on you?
I don't think so.
Look up.
You guys are moving in super slow mo right now.
She just
She was like, there's no truer truth on this earth than the word of God. And I believe what I believe because it's I teach history, and we don't question anything that's happened in history like people question the Bible. And what's crazy about that is there's so much proof to back up everything in the Bible. One thing in apologetics that I've learned a lot about is there's two ways to make sure something truly did happen historically. First is that people witnessed it, and tons of people witnessed what the Bible says. And the other thing, I just forgot what the other thing is. It's that it was witnessed, and that you have a lot of different copies of it. And both of those are true for the Bible. So yeah, it's a witness account. It is backed up historically. It's backed up through documents that have been proven to be true. And so I believe that it's the truth. And it's the only religion where we're still worshiping a God who is alive. Buddha died, Muhammad died. Every other religion out there, the God or the gods are not living. But on so many witness accounts, we have been told that, Jesus did rise from the dead, and he is still alive. He ascended to heaven as a living person. And so that's why I believe it, because it's the truth.
Okay. So you have your you have your beliefs and you know what's to be true. So how does that affect how you behave in the world? How does that affect how you operate or engage in the world? Good.
You know, we are human. We are, there's this false narrative going around that, like, you know, you are good and you are, you know, nothing, God isn't going to allow anything bad to happen to you, and there all this goodness. But true Christianity says that we are sinners. We're born into a world of sin. We've been separated from God by sin, and because Jesus did what he did, that's our way to the Lord. And because sin exists, bad things exist, and death and sickness and all those things. But we have a hope in the living, you know, in the good. And so I fail all the time, every day. We all do. But, you know, that's okay, because Jesus did what he did because of grace. So I try to live like Jesus. I try to be kind. I try to love people. I try to be happy. Am I always? Ask Ben. Am I always?
Yeah. But I'm not perfect either.
No one is perfect.
Or any of us. So no. But I want Maggie Jean to see parents who live and strive to be like Jesus, because that's what we believe. I don't want her to see parents who never mess up. I want her to see parents who, even when bad things happen, even when things mess up, we still call on Jesus, and we still cling to him, because he's good. He doesn't change, even when our circumstances do.
Okay, so how do you explain, let's say when you have Buddhists, you have millions of Buddhists, you have millions of Muslims, what is going to be the outcome for them? Like, if people that maybe have never even been exposed to Christianity, what does, is there a heaven option for them?
Right. The Bible says that Jesus is the way. He's the only way. And if I'm not mistaken, the Bible also says that, you know, the Lord will even if Jesus is never proclaimed by a human to these people, God still finds a way to reveal himself through creation. When we look around and we see the earth, that is evidence of God. And so I think that God's going to reveal himself to people one way or another, whether it's by word of mouth from a human or something else. And it's hard to say it, but I believe Jesus is the only way. I believe that is heaven. And I believe that those people are going to be exposed to the word, whether that is by, you know, by someone coming and being a missionary, or God using his creation to reveal himself to them.
So that seems harsh. So if they are not revealed to, if God does not reveal himself to these people, then they're basically doomed. Is that how it kind of?
I don't think there's a if. Like, I don't think there's going to be people who have not had that experience.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
It does seem harsh. I mean, that's why it's hard to talk about. That's why people, you know, shy away from it. But I can't say that I'm a true believer and that I believe the Bible is the true truth if I don't believe what I just told you.
Got it.
You know, got it. I can't believe a piece of it.
Okay. So what, from your perspective, you know, what is a Christian's role in today's world when there's so much chaos going on, there's so much division going on? There's a lot of different ideas. It's a scary time. There's a deadly virus on the loose. What is your role in this? Does this stuff worry you? Is it something that keeps you up at night? Is it something that makes you question like how Maggie Jean grows up in the world? Like where does a Christian's mind sit with all of this?
I think it would be false if I said it doesn't worry me, especially now that I have a kid. We had a baby April 9th of 2020, which was 5 weeks into the national shutdown. Ben couldn't come to the hospital because I had gone for a checkup and they decided I needed to be induced. But in that in-between time, when they were running that blood work and stuff, Ben couldn't come to the hospital with me until they admitted me for induction to deliver Maggie Jean. And
then I couldn't even leave.
Yeah, and then once he got there, he couldn't leave, and we were there for 5 days. So it was hard. I struggled with postpartum anxiety. I started having panic attacks after Maggie Jean was born. We didn't know if our parents would be able to come visit us or when. So as soon as the pandemic started, we were affected greatly. But at the same time, and I think Ben can tell you, like, we're also granted peace during that time. There was a point during my labor where I was getting sick. I wasn't dilating, and they started talking about a C-section. I'd been in labor for 2 days. And do you want to tell a story? What? So it's about 2:00 in the morning, and I was only dilated to a 2. You have to be at a 10 to have a baby. And the doctor came in, or the midwife, and she said, Megan, your temperature's going up. The baby's not moving when you're having contractions, and you're not dilating. If you don't dilate, a couple of centimeters in the next 2 hours, you're going to have a C-section. And that's probably Ben said that's not part of the plan. That's probably one of the hardest moments in my faith. I had to pray the prayer that was probably the hardest one to pray. And that was, it wasn't, God, make this happen. Let me have this baby the way I want to. It was, God, if your plan is for me to have a C-section, I need you to give me peace. Like, I want your will to be done. But right now that's hard for me to comprehend because I'm not okay with it. And we put on worship music and I prayed, and we sat in peace for 2 hours. And when the midwife came in 2 hours later, I was dilated to a 7. And she said, you're going to be pushing in a few hours. And Ben truly said a couple weeks later, he was like, Megan, that was God. That was the Lord giving us peace, because I think truly I had to get to a place where I was saying, let your will be done before, and it could have gone the other way and he could have given me peace about it, but I was truly struggling to be okay with the idea of having surgery. But anyway, so through all the bad, there's always those moments of good. And having a baby in a pandemic, being in a shutdown, not being able to have everybody come over and see your baby. And Maggie Jean had a heart murmur, and she had jaundice, and she, it was rough. And so I was having panic attacks. So was were we always, perfectly relying on the Lord? No, but we got through it. So I think, and I feel like that was a long answer, but I feel like a Christian's role right now in the world is to say all this bad is going on, but like I said earlier, God's still the same and it's not changing, and they're still good. We still have a hope, and our hope isn't that the world's going to get better. Our hope is that when we leave this world, we have something better waiting for us. So yes, it's hard raising a baby in a pandemic. It's hard living in a world in a pandemic, but I believe our role as Christians is to bring peace, or let the Lord bring peace through us, and to show people that, we have something greater coming.
Got it. So there are a couple things you said that really stuck out I want to touch on. Number one, postpartum depression. I don't know much about that. I hear it's pretty rough, especially, when your newborn child is going through, having issues, like you said, a murmur and jaundice. Like, how difficult is that to deal with as a brand new parent, the first child you brought, brand new experience, and like things aren't perfect? How do you deal with that?
It's nerve-wracking.
It's hard. I was one of those people that I've always wanted to have a baby. I've always wanted to be pregnant. I loved being pregnant, even though I was sick some of the time. I'm not one of those people that I'm like, that was the worst experience of my life. So once the baby came, I expected that to continue. Ben was like, you're the baby whisperer. You're the one with experience. Like, he felt like I'm going to have to teach him how to be a dad and what to do. And then all of a sudden I start having panic attacks, and our baby has a heart murmur, and it's in the middle of a pandemic. And we get in the doctor's office and they said, I'm sorry, Dad, you can't come in. Your baby's 4 days old, but only the mom can come in. And I'm having panic attacks left or right. And it's like, you want me to do this by myself? Like, it was probably the hardest time, because it's just, you need support when you have a baby. Neither one of us were sleeping. We were scared she was going to stop breathing, so we would take turns watching her sleep. And at one point, the doctor said, I don't care about this pandemic when I'm talking to you. I care about your health and your sleep, and you need support. Call mom. Because they asked, is mom coming? Who's coming? And we were told that nobody could come. And the doctor said, no, they need to come. So we found that support. My mom came and stayed a week with us, and my dad. And then 2 weeks later, Ben's parents came after they had quarantined, because my parents had been at home, so they had already quarantined. And then just that support was necessary. And getting outside, I know something about, wasn't it the afternoons that would be bad for me? Like, it was, no, I'm talking about when my panic attacks would set in. It was like, I was worried about her sleeping. And so come like 3-4 o'clock, I would have panic attacks about the nighttime. Am I going to sleep? Is she going to sleep? How often are we going to have to wake up? Or there was a daggum tornado our first night home. That was my first panic attack. Was I'm sitting there holding my baby, and I want to cry talking about it. We're gathered in the living room. My mom, Ben, me,
in every single room,
and the baby, and there's tornadoes. And that was the first time I realized I can do everything in my power to protect this baby, but like, there's some things that are out of my control. And that was absolutely terrifying. And that's probably one of the first moments where I have been so scared that I felt I couldn't pray. And I remember texting my friend Anita. You probably remember her from the wedding. Y'all hung out and danced some, but she's my mentor, my go-to. She's old enough to be my mom, but she's one of my best friends. And, you know, her gift is truly encouraging. And I texted her and I said, I'm more scared than I've ever been, and I can't pray. I need you to pray. And, you know, we got through it. But anyway, so panic attacks started then. And it was just, I didn't know how to control it. And I didn't know how to not be scared. And I didn't know how to just, you know, I don't know. I felt out of control. I felt like Maggie Jean's life was out of my control. And so, and we were responsible for her. It's like, how can everything be out of my control, but yet you're in control of her life? So at 2 weeks postpartum, which means 2 weeks after I had Maggie Jean, I had to go for a checkup, and my mom said, you need to tell the doctor everything that you're feeling. And I was like, okay. And so I told her, and they put me on anxiety medicine. I had to stop breastfeeding because that was one of the things causing me not to sleep. And that was hard because that was one of the things I wanted to do. And anyway, so I gave that up so that I could sleep through the night. My mom could help feed the baby, and Ben could help feed the baby. And we are 15 months postpartum, and I still have breakthrough anxiety sometimes, but I went to therapy for a few months. I'm on medicine, and I've learned how to get through it. I've learned how to breathe, how to pray, how to just, I don't know. I've learned how to get through those moments where before I would get physically sick. I mean, I would vomit. I was so sick. I felt like I would pass out. What'd you say? Just overwhelmed. I mean, I'd wake up and I'd put my hand on her belly, and I didn't feel her breathe quick enough, and it would just happen like that. But anyway, so I've learned, because I went to a Christian therapist, and I've just learned how to, you know, get through it. And so, yeah, it's hard. And it's hard for Ben because he's like, I don't know how to help, you know, baby, mentally. He's like, baby, scare him, but also just mentally. I mean,
there wasn't anything I could do.
There was nothing he could do. There was nothing he could say. It was just happening, and he was just there. And so he couldn't even help, you know, fix it. And I think as a dad and as a husband, you know, when you love somebody, that's what you want to do, is like, how can I help? And it's like, I don't know.
Right. Yeah, that is rough, because I think a large portion of the world, they try to paint this golden picture of what it's like to be a parent, and there are no problems, and everything's hunky dory. But yeah, that's the real side of what parenting is, what it sounds like. I mean, I'm not a parent, but it's like there are highs and lows. You know, there's an adjustment period again, because there's so many factors, and like, kind of like Ben, it's almost like this fear of babies. I remember when my brother had his baby, and I'm like, when I was holding it, it's like, I'm holding this fragile little thing. It's like, I'm just not going to move.
Yeah. I remember making Ben hold my niece. She was a newborn. I don't think I was pregnant yet, but we knew that we wanted to have kids sooner because we got married when he was older. And so I was like, Ben, like, you have to hold this newborn. And I remember him holding it like it was a football, you know. He was uncomfortable. And I call him a helicopter dad because he's still I'm
still here, I promise.
It's funny. I've been around babies a lot more. So now that she's not a tiny, helpless newborn, and we're in control a little bit. I'm more relaxed, but now he's like this helicopter dad, and it's funny.
Would you say that being a parent is the hardest thing that you've ever done?
Mentally, yeah. What do you think, Ben? Ben says probably. I think there's a lot of things that have been difficult. But I've never, especially that newborn phase, I have never felt more like I couldn't control things. So, in college, I could have studied better and got better grades. Teaching, I could prepare more and do a better job. But it's like I prepared, we watched videos, we read books, we had these folders of paperwork, but nothing said how to handle jaundice. Nothing said how to handle a heart murmur. Nothing said what to do in the middle of the night when there's a tornado and you don't have a room in your house with no windows. Nothing said, it was just, you could be as prepared as you wanted to be, but things were still gonna happen. And so in that sense, yeah, it's the hardest thing. Everything else you can prepare for and you can anticipate. And with babies, unless you anticipate everything bad happening all the time, which who lives like that, you can't, does that make sense?
Yeah. It almost seems like you just kind of, like you said, you have to continue moving forward, and you've done all this research and preparation, and it's like none of this is helping me. Yeah. So have you gotten to a point where you have more faith in just your natural ability to be a parent than you do in seeking out research or books or anything like that? Because there's good information there, but I'm just curious for you.
Yeah, that is one of the things. My mom, she was like, "You've got to quit Googling everything," because she wouldn't finish a bottle, and I would Google, what do you do if your baby doesn't finish the bottle? And they're like, they may have I'm being dramatic, but they may have an eating disorder. Take them to the doctor. So my mom was like, "Megan, your baby is healthy. She's happy. And one thing the doctor says is if you can console them from crying, if they are using the bathroom, and if they are fed, sometimes that's all you can do. You're good." And so I had to get to a place where it's almost like 70-30, 70% instinct, 30% research and other specific people's opinions, not just other people's opinions, but being intentional about, the 30%, where's that information coming from?
Okay, got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Does that experience, because like you said, Maggie Jean's in the place now where she's a little more self-sufficient and you guys can relax a little bit. Do you think that's made you better in areas other than parenting? Like when you're out in the world or engaging with people, do you have more patience, or do you feel like just a better human? No, the fuse is short.
Ben has never had a lot of patience.
That's true. I can attest to that. Ben has never had a lot of patience.
I think he's probably like, it's my child. I have more patience, but with everybody else, no. Is that correct, Ben?
Yeah.
Got it.
Me, I don't know. What do you think?
I have different priorities now. Because I don't do as much. I still do a lot job-wise, but I don't do as much as I did before. And she's the priority now. So if anything happens with her, or if Megan can't get her or needs help or whatever, then I just tell them I gotta go and I come home.
Because our situation's a little different too, because we don't have family right here. You know, most of the other coaches, they have mother-in-laws, their mom, and, you know, all this established support. And other than her Thea Anita, she, you know, it's on us. Say Mike.
Hey, Maggie.
Hey.
Maggie Jean, hey.
So, there she goes. Blow a kiss. Mwah.
Mwah. Close enough. That's close enough.
Are you ready for a nap? You go take a nap. Talk to Ben, and I'm gonna go lay her down.
Okay. Ben, you're up.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a whole lot of silence now.
No, sir, not acceptable. Silence is not acceptable on this podcast. So, sir, tell me what it was like for you being helpless in that situation where there's literally nothing you can do. What does that feel like?
I mean, it really does feel helpless. Like you're just awake and like you feel bad if you go back to sleep because then like you're just leaving her hanging. And you feel bad because you're awake and there's nothing you can do. So you just sit there in the darkness and be quiet and stare at the wall. Like there's no watching TV, no distractions. You just sit in silence.
Oh, that sounds like a really, well, I mean, that sounds like meditation to me. Sounds like a relaxing place, but I mean, in this state of things.
Yeah. At the time, like everything from like birth on was just one thing after another. And these people are freaking out. Or they may not be freaking out, but the way they come into rooms freaks us out because we don't know what's going on. And they're just like, well, we need to do this and we need to do this. And it's just like one thing after another. And then like I had a front row seat for the birth, which I was not anticipating. So that was another added thing where you just kind of jump in and do what you got to do. So,
and just because, yeah, you can't overthink it. You just have to be available and ready, right?
Yeah. And like Megan said, there's nobody else for us. So it's like me and her against the world, basically.
Wow. That's quite an experience. So are there more little ones on the horizon?
I told Megan, this always pisses people off, but I told her that we have to pay this one off before we have another one. And everyone's like, oh, well, you'll never pay her off. Like until she turns 18, you're going to be paying for her. I mean, like the hospital bill part of it.
Yeah, no, I get it. That's real. That's real right there. That's logical. Until we pay this one off, we're not thinking about another one. Yeah. That is real. I like your line of logic, Ben. Black and white, straight to the point. No nonsense.
Well, that's why we're friends. And
indeed.
The other ones.
Indeed. Oh, wow. So tell me this. You guys are in the marriage and you've got a beautiful child. At what point did you know that it was love?
For Megan or for Maggie?
Huh?
For Megan or for Maggie Jean?
For love for you. Like at what point did you know that Megan was the one for you?
I think we got into a fight, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And then at that point, it was like, okay, if she can handle that, there's probably not very many people that can. So
right.
What are y'all talking about?
When it was love.
What? When?
Yeah.
No, I'm asking you, when was it love?
You said it was a fight.
Fight.
Me and you?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because he was trying to tutor me in math, and I'm not good in math, or I'm still evolving,
Struggling.
my math skills, and because I was in college, and he was like, "How do you not understand?" And I was like, "I don't know, I just don't."
This
And
was like algebra, like basic algebra.
It was math 110.
That is great. I feel like Ben has said that like I've heard him say that a dozen times. Just how do you not understand?
I mean, he had like explained it, and I was like, "That doesn't make sense to me." And he
Look,
was
I've
like,
gotten worse the older I've gotten too. It's just like downhill.
"Yeah, that was 10 years ago."
Oh, that is great. So, but that makes sense because I think that's part of know thyself. So you guys had an argument and you were like, wow, she took it. Okay. That's pretty outstanding.
Take it okay. I cried like a baby. And he was like, I'll never forget. He came back in there and he's like, "Do you want some orange juice?"
Make it better with the orange juice, Ben. Yeah.
I'm like,
good.
you just like yelled at me, and then you're gonna offer me some orange juice?
I think that's all I had, honestly.
I thought about that in a long time. That's funny.
That is hilarious. It's like I made her cry. What do I have to give her? I've got some orange juice, babe. That's what I got right now.
Forget there's a tear in my beer. He's gonna give me orange juice to make it better.
That is hilarious. Not even a hug. He's like, I don't even have a hug available, but I got some juice for you.
Yeah.
That's funny.
You just stay in this room and let me go in my room and let me calm down.
That is hilarious.
That's probably the thing. Well, we're opposites in most ways, which, keep things interesting. But when we fight, I'm like, let's stay here, let's finish this, and then let's make up. All like right here. We're not going to bed mad. We're gonna go through all the stages right now. And him, once the fight's over, he's like, "Okay, now leave me alone so I can sulk." And I'm like,
I don't sulk.
"Yes, you."
Calm down.
Ben, you might sulk a little bit. I think I've seen you sulk, Ben.
Well, not because I was mad, probably. I don't know.
And I'm like, "But you said we were fine." And he's like, "Yeah, I am." And I'm like, "So why are you not happy?" Like,
I don't flip a switch. Like, I
Yeah.
don't just turn it off.
And I'm like, "But I don't understand that. Like, you said we're fine, I'm like, "You have to kiss me and tell me you love me." And he's like, "Mm-mm." And I'm not going to leave you alone until you at least give me that.
Oh, Ben, I love you. That is real. That is like, nope, not happening.
Not over this yet. Just leave me alone.
Just leave me alone. Give me my space.
The fight's not over, but the feelings aren't. And I'm like, I tell him, what do I say? The Bible says, or Paul said in the Bible, never go to bed. What is it? Don't let the sun go down on your anger. And so I tell him, I'm like, we're not going to bed mad at each other.
We're going to work it out. Yep. That is real. So for you, Megan, at what point did you know it was love, that you loved Ben?
Our first date.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I'm that good.
Oh, look at that.
We hung out.
Conceited.
We hung out for hours. And I
think we went through like 3 movies.
Yeah, we watched like 3 movies.
We didn't watch them. We were just talking.
But I went home and I told my mom, I was like, "I love him. I'm going to marry him." And then on the 4th date, he kissed me. And I was like, yep, that's it.
Wow, that's awesome.
I was younger, so I was a little more fairy tale land, for Ben. We were like 7 months in, and I'm like, is he ever gonna love me? Like, what? I've never been. So Ben, he's different. He's on his own time, and even with love, it took him yelling at me and offering me orange juice to love me. So.
That's a real show of affection right there, you know. And I
Right.
think, you know, a lot of us do get caught in the idea that love is supposed to be pretty. But it's like the arguments and the hard spots. That's a part of love too. It's a necessary requirement. You have to have both the good and the bad for it to be real love.
Yeah. And we talk about a lot of times, you know, how opposite we are. And
We can't agree on nothing.
we can't. And even our love language is completely opposite. He's acts of service and I'm words of affirmation. And there's nothing he's worse at than words of affirmation. And
I confirm. Yep.
there's nothing there's nothing that's lower on my list than acts of service. So we've talked about it and I'm like why does God put opposites together? And I think we just talked about it a couple of weeks ago and I'm like, but it'd really be boring, you know, and it wouldn't be you choosing to love someone just like Jesus. Like if everything was perfect, you wouldn't choose to love Jesus. You'd love him because everything's perfect, but he gives us a choice. And that's the way it is with a relationship because, you know, it's, you know, Jesus says it's like a marriage that the bridegroom or the groom's going to come get the church. And so it's like we have to choose to love each other the way each other needs to be loved. And
It's work.
and it's not for
I'm not saying that in a bad way. It's
Yeah.
just like, make each other better, but we also have to work to make the other one happy.
Absolutely. It's definitely work. And I think you guys have two solid examples in your parents, right? Both of your parents have been together for a long time, correct?
Yeah. My parents, I'm 21, so they've been together 24 years. And
I've been together for 37,
Yeah.
I think.
so we're probably a little bit of a rarity where both of our parents, I don't know, but I would assume, you know, with divorce the way it is, that's probably not that common. So,
Right. Right. And I think that's really important, you know, when you get to see parents and other people in your circle that have done it, it makes it more realistic that that's also possible for you.
Yeah.
What would you two say the best advice about marriage is that you've gotten from your parents, about marriage?
We got quiet.
Yeah.
When Ben asked my dad if he could marry me, my dad had a long conversation with Ben about he wasn't just like, you know, you better not ever hurt my dog. You know, we were past that whole like scaring him phase. It was, you're making a commitment, right? Isn't that the conversation? Like it's, you have to choose each other every single day above everything, you know, because it's God, husband and wife, family, you know, that's the way you put each other first and you have to choose to do that. And so I think my dad just talking about the commitment that marriage is and the teamwork. And I think your parents and my parents were both good at a, what's it called? The front, like it wasn't a divided front ever in front of us, right? Like if they were arguing or about the discipline or about, what is it called? A united front. I couldn't think of the word. I think both, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I saw my parents fight once.
But even not with just fighting, but I'm talking about the way they parented. Like they didn't fight about parenting in front of you. Like you always thought they were on the same page.
Yeah.
And my parents were the same. And so that's one of the things Ben and I agreed on before we got married is in front of our kids, you know, we want to be a united front. So choosing each other every day. And
yeah, and I was gonna say, like, we're friends too.
yeah.
Like, we're not just married. We like enjoy each other for the most part. And I think both of our parents are that way too, especially since all their kids are grown and gone.
Yeah.
I mean, I told you the other day, my parents did buy that kayak, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, good. I'm happy they did.
So, like, they still do stuff together now. It's not like they're hermits and one goes to one room and the other one goes to the other room and like don't want to spend any time together or any of that stuff. Like, they still are friends and like enjoy each other's company and that kind of thing. So
that's awesome.
We do too. We pretty much kind of have to, just because we're the only ones we got.
Yeah. You know, all the friends we make, there are friends here, but they still have their people, like their home base, whether that's childhood friends or family. And so it's like, yeah, we're friends, but like they have their set people. And so
we're just like on the back burner, like, hey, you're not doing anything, so let's go hang out with
them. Like, not, I mean, that sounds negative, but I mean, you can't.
Sometimes it is.
But so it's like, we have to, you know, not have to be, but we're okay. You know, our favorite thing to do is probably order Buffalo Wild Wings and let's watch a funny movie, you know, and we have fun doing it. Or let's play Scrabble, or, you know, a stupid game, or let's just sit on the couch and watch TV. And
it's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, it is. Ben can go without having fun and without leaving the house a lot longer than I can. And I'm like, we got to get out of this house. And he's like, but why? Like, people are just so, and I need human interaction. Let's just go walk around Target and smile at people or something, you know?
Oh, yeah. I can definitely attest to, I'm kind of that way too. As I get older, I need less engagement. I'm happier for longer periods of time at home. I mean, I love going out too, but it's like I can be just as content at home as well.
Well, and especially in the fall, I'm hardly ever here.
Right.
At home. So I just enjoy being home and sitting still and being quiet and not having to do anything else. So.
And I feel the opposite, because while he's at football, I'm home, you know. I'm taking care of the baby and the dog and getting supper ready and lunch for the next day. So it's like, by the time Saturday or Sunday rolls around, I'm like, let's go do something. And he's like,
that's my one day where I won't do anything.
Yeah. He's like,
Saturdays.
But no, I want to stay here all day. So, you know, I have to find other ways to get out and about. And that's one thing that's good about Maggie Jean is she, you know, she's a good shopping partner. I can just.
She's along for the ride anyway.
Yeah. It's like, just take Maggie Jean with you. And I'm like, but I do, you know.
Right.
The first time she smiled was whenever I said, do you want to go to Target? So
got it. That is,
we're living right.
That is awesome. Well, guys, I appreciate you joining No More Conversations. Hang up real quick so I can say my goodbyes, but we'll end the recording here. And thanks for joining, guys.
Thank you.